Hey guys, Mike Toy, Bonsai Boise. So today I'm working on this Ficus Retusa, aka Ginseng Ficus. This is the second one of these that I have been working on lately. I posted the other one about a month or so ago. This one was actually given to me from a friend of mine, Ryan, who same guy who's been nice enough to house some of my tropical trees in his greenhouse this winter. So thanks to Ryan for that. He got this, I believe, at Home Depot, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, right there. Home Depot, $24.99, and he never did anything with it. So this is still the same pot that it came in from Home Depot, same soil, same everything. So the goal today is to take it out of the pot, take it out of the soil it's in, repot it into a new pot and with new bonsai soil. Why do I have two pots, you might be asking? Because I don't know what's going on underneath this level right here. It could be a monster, and if it's a monster under there, I'm gonna have to put it in this bigger pot. My goal, hopefully, is to get it into the smaller pot, which I think will work. I can't imagine this being too much bigger underneath the surface, aside from roots. So, but you know, that's the adventure. We're gonna find out here in a minute. So follow me and let's dig in. Okay, so before we get started, I'm going to show you the tools we're going to use for this. So all you're going to need is a pair of clippers. This is for heavier pruning, so in case we got to chop off some thick trunks. Some scissors. These are probably my most frequently used tools, so I use these for anything in between. You'll need some smaller, these are just cubicles that I get at the dollar store, you know, that you would get for your fingernails or something. So this or one of these, I get this for $1.99 at Harbor Freight. This is just to make a nice flush, clean cut. So after you make a big cut and you want to get it flush so you don't have bumps and scars all over, use one of these. So you need that. An old fork or a rake of some type. They sell these rakes in those little starter bonsai kits. I don't ever buy them. I just take an old fork, make it into a rake. Chopstick or some type of shish kebab stick or something like that. That's for working the soil into the roots when we put it into the new pot. And some type of screen or a net. This is to put in over the drainage holes in the new pot to hold the soil in. So that's all we're gonna need. So now let's take it out of this pot and have a look inside. Okay, so now, forgot to point this out, you would need some type of a butter knife or a knife of some type, or even I just use sometimes old popsicle sticks. And what you do is you sort of just cut around the edge of the pot that it's in. Sometimes this isn't even necessary, it just comes right out without much of a fight. But other times, if it's been in there a little while, especially if it's cemented into the pot, like a lot of these box store plants are, it needs a little bit of encouragement. So we're just gonna cut around the edge here. The soil doesn't feel super compact. Sometimes I'll do this and it's been in the pot so long or it's so root bound that you almost can't even fit a knife in there. But this one fit right in and cut around it without too much of a fight. So here we go. Now we're going to carefully pull it out of this pot if we can. A little bit. Okay, so before I do this, because this pot is so full to the brim of soil, I'm actually going to rake some of this off. If I can avoid making a mess, I will avoid making a mess. Like I said, it never actually works, but I try. Okay, I'm just going to rake off this top layer. One thing we're looking for when we do this is this trunk. I don't know what to expect. This trunk could be buried, you know, an inch or two in soil, and it could have an even bigger trunk than what we're looking at. Or it could be all roots. We don't really know. That's the joy and the adventure of these box store plants, is sometimes you score a big win and get one with an amazing looking trunk that's just buried under soil. Other times you get in there and it has no roots at all. Both of those things have happened to me. So now that I got that out, we can more carefully pull this out of the pot. I'm doing this as carefully as I can. There we go. Here it comes. Okay. So there it is. Now, let's rake some of this off of here. The soil feels pretty loose. That's good. Good sign. I'm going to move this pot out of the way. Yeah, the soil doesn't look too bad at all. It's good. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to empty this into the trash here since it's already full. You know, at this point, since the soil's coming out of there so easy, I'm going to quit with the fork. Let me use a chopstick here. Chopstick is a little more forgiving on delicate roots than a fork is. If we can get away with doing that, then we will. Okay, so I'm just raking away the soil here. Okay, so I got that cleaned out. So now let's have a look at the roots here. So it's so there's a lot of roots. That's good news. Really long roots too. So grew some really long roots and they started to just circle around the pot. That's why you see this sort of effect there. Looks like the trunk did go down a little deeper. So here, right here's the soil line. You can see it's a different color. And looks like it went down about another inch or so, and there are some roots coming off of there, but I think we can use some of that. So if we put it in the new pot right about there, I think that'll work just fine. So I think that's what we'll do. So we're going to trim some of the roots now. Before we do any major root selection, we're just going to kind of chop away some of the major excess here. We know that we can't use those. We're going to get rid of those. And I can already tell you this one that's coming back across, we're not going to be able to use that, so we're going to get rid of that. Take another look here. This one here, I can tell you we can get rid of that. Mainly what we're looking for are roots that are crisscrossing or growing off into some crazy direction that isn't going to work. That's just going to turn into a mess down the road. See, like these ones down here, for example. See how they're growing inward? We don't want that. We want the ones that grow outward for the most part. So we're going to make a bigger cut there and get rid of that. Same with this one here. Oops. And a couple other little, we don't have to do any major root pruning today, just enough so that it's in the new pot and that it's growing in relatively the direction that we want it to go. It doesn't have to be perfect. Never has to be perfect. I mean, there comes a time for some really fine tuning when you want to perfect your tree. So I guess I shouldn't say it never has to be perfect, but for the most part, it doesn't have to be perfect because it'll change. Even if you don't want it to, it will change. And especially on these store-bought trees, it definitely doesn't have to be perfect the first time around. It'd be impossible to get it perfect. Okay, so we've reached a point now where we've made some good cuts. We don't want to lose too much of the root system here, so before I go maverick and make any more big cuts, let's take a look at this new pot and kind of get an eyeball of an idea as to how well it's going to fit in there. And so then we can make any other cut decisions based on that. So 1 second, let me grab it. I think we can make that work. Kind of a decision. So here are the options here. We could do a few things. We could make it work in this pot right here. A lot of these roots would be exposed. Some of them would just die off because they're not used to the air and the exposure. So they would end up just dying off. A lot of them would. Another thing we can do is we can make a cut right here at some of this root ball, salvaging some of the roots above it, losing any roots below it. We'd have to make a cut right about here, right about there. That would make it fit into the pot better, which is kind of the way I'm leaning at the moment. Or we can use that bigger pot, which I will grab right now, and we'll take a look. There it is. Actually, well, it fits in that one better, but quite a decision there. Now I'm torn. I think what we're going to do is go with this as the front. Something like that right there. So that being said, you can go there or there. I think we're going to end up going with the bigger pot. Just because, since it's the first time I'm repotting it, I don't want to go too crazy and cut off too much of the roots. Plus the root system, it doesn't look bad at all, but it's not fantastic either. It's not so big and thick that you can get away with a whole lot. So we're going to play it safe this first round. We're going to put it in this pot right here. So I think we're still going to have to make... No, I take it back. I think that'll be fine right there. I was thinking we might have to cut a little bit off the feet of the roots here, if that's what they're called. We are going to cut a little bit off of this one right here. And how I came to that conclusion, to be honest, I'm making this up as I go on this one. I didn't have a set plan because it's a store-bought tree. I don't know what's going on under the soil. And honestly, we had options with this. It's got a lot of decent looking fronts. So I didn't want to tie my hands behind my back so that I couldn't make a decision. I wanted to kind of play by ear. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking if we make this cut right here, which I'm about to do, now you'll actually lean forward a little bit like so, which gives it a cool effect. Other than that, I think we're going to leave well enough alone. So let's go ahead and get some soil and get it in its pot. Okay, so we've got our new pot here. Get that dirt out of there. Got our screen. So I'm going to cut some of this out. The part where it ties always gets in the way. There we go. Okay, so and you can do a couple things. You can make 2 cuts, one for each hole, or one long cut. In this particular case, I'm going to be lazy and make one long cut. There we go. Stretch it out a little bit so I'm not having to wrestle with it and monkey with it when it's in there. Put it over top of both holes. I should stretch it out a little further. Hang on. Just like so. Now, a lot of the videos you see out there, a lot of people you'll talk to will tell you to wire it in, which probably is not a terrible idea. I usually don't. Why? I don't know. I guess because you don't have to. I mean, you can, but you don't really have to. Oop, bear with me here one sec here. Just got my bucket of soil here. So, to get away with not doing it, all you do is you put your netting over the drainage holes, like so. I'm going to do this left-handed, so this might not look super coordinated. Yeah, see what I mean? Right-handed, I may not have done that. Although I am kind of a klutz, so maybe I would have, who knows. So now the netting is in place. First couple of scoops, I'm always careful just to make sure, because sometimes it can wiggle out of place underneath the soil and you don't even notice until you fill it up and until you put the new tree in and get it all perfect, and then you look underneath and see that the screen is gone. You're like, ah. I'm spilling dirt everywhere. Okay, a couple more scoops here. There we go. Okay, so that's enough to hold it in place for a minute. I'm gonna just kind of smooth it out. And I'm gonna pat it down. Yeah, we're gonna work the soil in anyways, but it helps if I get it somewhat in place now too. Because I've done it a couple of ways. And if you're anything like me, you might make the same mistake at some point. You can pour the soil in, and put the tree in, put more soil in, then work it all in together. That takes forever, a good hour. Or you can do it in steps. You can put a little soil in, work out any air pockets that are in there, like so, or even just kind of wing it and go like that. And then put the tree in, and then a little more soil, work that in, a little more soil, work that in. It takes about a third of the time that way. Okay, I'm gonna do a little cleanup work. I'm just gonna get rid of some of these roots on the inside here. There we go. I'm kind of wondering about this here. Yeah, we'll let it go. Okay. Remove this. Okay, so knowing now that this is the front, let me see here. Yep, just like that. We want it at a slight angle like this. I'm going to try to spread out the roots before I bury them in soil. I'm going to put a little more soil in there. All right, so there it is. So yeah, I fast forwarded through all the working the soil into the roots because it takes a long time and it's pretty boring to watch. So a couple things I'm going to point out here before I give it a good rinse down is that I'm experimenting with a new mix of soil. So I used to go about equal parts of the Turfus stuff, the Absorb that I use from the auto parts store. If you haven't seen how I make it, I'll put a link right here. I used to use equal parts of that, perlite, and some pine bark or some type of organics in it. And I've upped the organics. Good and bad, I think. Overall, long term, I think it's going to be better because there's a little bit more nutrients in it and it's just a little more natural. In the short term, it's more of a pain because working it into the soil is just much harder because it's bigger chunks and it's just harder to work with. So it takes longer, really. And it's kind of a process because once I do think I got it all worked in, I water it down. I realize, oh, here's a big air pocket here because now it sinks in a little. So just something to know when switching to something like that. So now I'm going to go ahead and give this a watering down. Okay, so here it is. You know, not bad. I didn't touch any of the foliage, as you can see. You might be wondering why I didn't do any trimming there. Didn't see any need to. It's doing fine. I don't see anything that's too outrageous or out of place. So, I mean, if I really analyzed it long enough, I might. You know, okay, now that I'm looking, I see one little leaf right there. That's not where I would choose, but whatever. It's fine. The goal here wasn't to do a complete hack job on it. I just wanted to repot it into a new pot with some new soil and kind of go from there. And I think that we accomplished that okay. So I'm going to give you a little spin here. I would do the spin on this, but it's not spinning right now. So I'm going to go like this. Okay, so there it is, the Ficus Retusa, or otherwise known as Ginseng Ficus. I hope you liked the video, and I hope it helped in some way. If so, please click like and subscribe on the channel, and you can see this, updates on this, and updates on some other trees I've done. I've got a lot of different variety of trees on there. Most of them I'm taking videos from the start of them, from when I first get them, so you can see the progression as I go along. And ask me any questions or leave any comments that you've got with your experience on these. I'd love to learn new things. So thanks for watching. Have a good day.